Level 1, the harbor. You are going to steal a Confederate warship. Not someday, not if conditions are right, you have already decided. You have been deciding for years inside a mind they thought they controlled by keeping you on the water. You know this harbor better than any white man alive. Every current, every shoal, every channel marker from Fort Sumter to open water. You have been piloting these waters since you were 12 years old, hired out by the man who owns you to do work he cannot do himself. You are 22. You are property. You are also the most valuable pilot in Charleston Harbor. Both of those things are true at the same time. The ship is called the CSS Planter. You pilot her every day past the gun batteries, past the checkpoints, past the Union blockade sitting 3 miles out on the horizon. 3 miles. You have memorized every signal, every password, every weakness between here and those ships. One night a week, the white officers go ashore. You have been watching how long they stay. You have been watching long enough. Level 2, the ship. The Planter is a Confederate dispatch vessel. She carries cannons, ammunition, and orders between the shore batteries and command. She flies the Confederate flag and moves through the harbor with full authority. You are her wheelman, not captain. They will never give you that title. But you do the captain's work. You know the checkpoints. You know the whistle signals that tell the gun batteries to let a ship pass. Your captain is a man named Reliea. He does not see you as a person. You are a function, a very useful one. Every morning you pilot the Planter through the harbor and watch the Union ships on the horizon. 3 miles. That is the distance between what you are and what you could be. Level 3, the plan. 16 people, your wife Hannah, your children. A handful of crew you trust because you have no choice but to trust them. The night the officers go ashore, you take the Planter. You pick up your families from a nearby dock. You use the Confederate signals to pass every gun battery. You run for the Union blockade fleet waiting outside, 4 miles from the dock to open water. If anyone recognizes you before you clear the last battery, they blow the ship out of the water. Hannah, your children, all of them. You spend weeks watching Reliea at the wheel, the way he stands, the angle of his hat. You find a hat that looks like his. You practice in the dark. Level 4, the night, May 12th, 1862. 3 in the morning. The officers are ashore. You move. You ease the Planter from the dock without a sound. First stop, a nearby wharf where Hannah and the children are waiting in the dark. 12 adults, 5 children. They come aboard without a word. You put on Relia's hat, you take the wheel. You stand the way he stands. Fort Johnson, first checkpoint. 3 short blasts and a long. The correct signal. You stare straight ahead. The fort signals back. Pass. Fort Sumter. The guns that started the war. Close enough to see the faces of the men in the battery. Same signal. Same hat. Same posture. They wave you through. You hold your course. You breathe the way a man breathes when breathing itself is a decision. Level 5, the flag. Past Fort Sumter, past the last Confederate gun. Open water. 3 miles out, the Union blockade fleet sits in the dark. Their orders: fire on any Confederate vessel that approaches. You lower the Confederate flag. You raise a white sheet. Then you push the engines hard and run straight at the USS Onward. The gun crews go to their stations. The order to fire is forming in the officer's mouth. Someone sees the white sheet. The order stops. You pull alongside at 4:15 in the morning. A Union officer looks down at you. You take the hat off. "Good morning, sir," you say. I have brought you some of the old United States guns. The planter, her cannons, her ammunition, her Confederate signal code books, every position, every password, every weakness in Charleston Harbor, memorized over years, delivered in one night. The intelligence alone is worth more than the ship. You are free. So is everyone on board. But freedom is not a destination. It is the beginning of a different fight. Level 6, the captain. You meet Lincoln. You brief Union generals, and your intelligence reshapes the strategy for the entire Charleston campaign. They ask you to describe the harbor from memory. You do, battery by battery, channel by channel, where the Confederates placed mines, which forts have the weakest guns, which officers panic under pressure. White generals stand around the map, listening to a man they would not have trusted to sit at their table 3 years earlier. You know more than all of them. That is why they need you. That is why they will never fully trust you. Then a Union officer tries to take your pilot's seat on the planter, now sailing for the Union Navy. He does not know the harbor. You watch him steer toward a Confederate battery. You push him aside and take the wheel and save everyone on board. They give you the captaincy the next day. First black captain of a United States military vessel. You know what it cost. You also know the men above you are already looking for reasons to take it back. They will spend the next 40 years looking. Level 7, the coal bunker, 1863. The planter comes under heavy fire in Folly Island Creek. Your white captain loses his nerve. He moves to surrender the ship. You know exactly what that means for everyone black on board. You grab him and force him into the coal bunker and lock the door. You take the wheel. You drive through the fire until you are out of range. The captain is relieved of command for cowardice. You are given the ship permanently. You just locked a white officer in a bunker, committed mutiny under fire, and got promoted for it. Men remember things like that. The wrong men are already remembering. Level 8, the house, April 1865. The war ends. You buy the house in Beaufort, where you were enslaved as a child. You stand in the front room the first night with your hands on the walls, your children's voices in the next room, Hannah in the kitchen. For one moment you think, I made it. Then the federal troops start leaving, and the men who lost the war start riding again. You are scheduled to speak at a meeting in Gillisonville. When you turn onto the road, you see the horses, red shirt riders surrounding the church, rifles across their saddles, not hiding. They sit there while the men inside calculate whether walking out means dying tonight. After 2 hours, the meeting dissolves. You file a report with the federal marshal the next morning. Not one report this year has produced an arrest. Washington is not coming. Level 9, the convention, 1895. South Carolina holds a constitutional convention to strip black citizens of the vote permanently. You are one of 6 black delegates in a room of 154 men who have already decided every outcome before you walked in. Benjamin Tillman runs it. He has bragged publicly about massacre. He does not lower his voice. You stand and speak. You cite the Constitution. You cite the 14th Amendment. You cite the men in your district who built something from nothing after the war. Tillman lets you finish. Then he leans back in his chair and looks at you the way a man looks at something that used to belong to him. Not anger, not respect, not even contempt, just ownership, the residue of it, the belief that no ship you ever stole, no war you ever fought, no office you ever held changes what you fundamentally are to him. He smiles at the room. "We don't care," he says. "We're going to do it anyway." The room laughs. Not nervously, just laughs. Every measure passes. You make Tillman look at you while he signs it. He does not flinch. He never had to. Level 10, The Erasure, a classroom in South Carolina. 1930. Portraits on the wall. Robert E. Lee. Stonewall Jackson. The children recite their battles and their names. No one mentions Robert Smalls, not the planter, not the coal bunker, not the 5 terms in Congress, not the man who stood in that convention hall and made Tillman look at him. Because what you did was too dangerous to remember. A slave who studied the system carefully enough to beat it, who used the master's own ship against him, who kept coming back in different forms to fight again. That story cannot be allowed to spread. You die in Beaufort in 1915 in the house where you were enslaved. The harbor is still outside the window. The same water. They couldn't take back what you did on the water that night. So they took the next best thing. They took the story. You memorized an entire harbor to get free. They spent a century making sure no one knew you had, but you are still here. In this one.